Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be taking you through a road trip through the country of Argentina. So follow along as I take you through some popular tourist destinations. Our first stop is the Plaza de Mayo, and some background information about this is that it was originally built in 1580, but the modern form of the plaza was created in 1884. So the form that you see today, the form that is in this picture here, was made in 1884 because it underwent a lot of changes between those 300 years. And many famous events and protests in Argentina have occurred here, such as the May Revolution in 1810, Loyalty Day in 1945, the bombing of the plaza, it was actually bombed in 1955, and the March of Resistance in 1982. And the March of Resistance was related to the Dirty War, where a lot of mothers and families of disappeared people protested here against the fact that their family members were being tortured and killed by the Argentinian junta. And today it serves as a famous and very popular tourist attraction. And that is about all for that. And it is significant because many events have occurred here, but one remains most well known. So during the Dirty War, the plaza was the location where protests for these disappeared people were held. And so it has a very significant meaning to a lot of people because they fought for the lives of their families in this very plaza right here. Next is the Casa Rosada Presidential Palace, and in the last picture, I don't know if you saw, but this palace is actually in the background of the Plaza de Mayo photo, so it is kind of like right next to the plaza. And some background information is that is the office of the Argentinian president. It was built in 1580, just like the plaza, but it was not used as a presidential office until 1862. And it is just the office of the president. The president does not live here. It's not like the White House where they live and work in the same building. So it is also a museum. There's a museum behind the palace itself that is connected to it that's open to tourists. And tourists can take a tour through the building, go up on the balcony, and everything like that. And it is significant because the balcony of this palace is where Juan and Evita Perón addressed topics of the Dirty War that was ensuing in Argentina in the 1940s. And now it's simply used for tourism and governmental purposes, but they would give speeches off of the balcony of this building to the people down below, and it was basically just them on a power trip. It wasn't anything terribly significant that they would say, but they would give speeches from this palace. So the third stop is the city of Lobos. So the name Lobos, there's like two ideas of where the name stems from. It is either from the otters being called river wolves, and there were a lot of otters in the surrounding river around the city, or from the wild dogs that used to roam around and they looked like wolves. So they're not really sure where the name came from. Lobo means wolf in Spanish, if you didn't know. And they're not really sure where the name came from, but those are some different ideas. And some background information is its history began in 1740 when it was first taken attention to and first appeared on a map in 1772. And it is a hotspot for tourism because there is a lot to do here, but it is also a high place of dairy production, so there are a lot of dairy cows here. And then there is also the Lobos Lagoon, which is a place for bird watching, fishing, and the annual famous sport fishing festival where people compete in sport fishing. And it is significant because the city of Lobos is the birthplace of President Juan Perón, and he was born here in 1895. And his childhood home here underwent restoration, and then it turned into a museum, which has lots of photographs and like general artifacts from the city, as well as some personal items owned by Perón. So it's a very famous attraction here. People love to visit and come learn about his childhood and his home life. The next stop is Patagonia. So this is a very beautiful area in Argentina. It contains part of the Andes Mountains, lakes, glaciers, and deserts, so it really does have it all. And it was originally inhabited by many indigenous tribes, but Spanish colonization took over and made those numbers of indigenous people decline rapidly, so that is unfortunate, but that is the case of what happened here. And the Vaca Muerta deposit is in Patagonia, and this is where 43% of the country's oil comes from. So it is a huge place where the economy is sourced, and not all of Patagonia is as beautiful as it seems in the main picture. If you look down in the bottom right, that is what a lot of it looks like. It is a big hub for oil production and fossil fuel extraction. So unfortunately, it is losing a lot of its beautiful flora and fauna because of this. So its high levels of petroleum make it a prime spot for this extraction, and it is of natural beauty still, but it is rapidly declining. So in terms of green energy, Argentina is not really on the up and up. The next stop is the Naval School of Mechanics. So this building was built in 1928. And the main background information about this place is that it was used as a secret torture center for the disappeared people during the Dirty War. And an estimated 5,000 people were tortured and killed here. So the junta in Argentina took a lot of people to different buildings and the basements of buildings and would torture and detain and kill people here. And this is one of the biggest main places that they would do that. So it now serves as a museum to bring awareness and serve as a memorial for those who did pass away here, for their families and other people to just pay their respects. And this building was extremely significant during the war because it was a detainment center for many innocent people who went missing, and several bodies as well as scratches along the walls were discovered in the basement when this building was kind of conquered and taken over. So it just shows like how poorly they were treated if there were scratches along the walls in the basement, and these poor people were just detained here, and a lot of their lives ended in this very building. So it's important that people pay their respects, and now it is a museum where people can do just that. The next stop is San Ignacio Mini, and this is like a little mini town that was founded around the year 1610 by the Jesuits as part of a Jesuit mission to civilize a local population using building a small town. And it's comprised of remains of a church, cemetery, priest's house, and I think around 200 other dwellings and buildings. So it is significant because they did civilize the local population using this small town that they built, and they also developed a very strong agricultural economy here. And now it is used as a historical tourist destination, and it's actually classified as an official World Heritage Site. It's a very popular tourist destination, and a lot of people come and visit here. The next stop is the Recoleta Cemetery, and this is a cemetery with the feel of a small city in itself because the tombs are so architecturally advanced and they're so big and intricate that it really does feel like a small city, and you can spend hours here walking through it. It is still active today. People are actively being buried here, and it provides a way for many people to honor fallen Argentinian figures, presidents, and more. So there are a lot of famous people who are buried here, and that includes Evita Peron. She died of cancer when I think she was 33 years old, and she is buried here. She was a very large historical figure in Argentina, as I mentioned, and because of this and many other icons and famous figures being buried here, it is a top attraction in Argentina that attracts a lot of tourists from all over the world. And the final destination on our road trip is the Museo de la Mujer. So this is an entire museum dedicated to women's history, art, and culture, and I thought this was really cool because it was only founded in March 2011, so it's fairly new, and it shows a visual timeline of the change in a woman's role throughout history using artifacts, pieces of clothing, paintings, and more. So it is a site that the founders said actively fights against gender-based discrimination and sexism by highlighting challenges faced by women, specifically in Latin America, but also just women all over the world. And it's a really cool museum that brings awareness to the struggles that women have gone through throughout the years of history. That is all I have for our road trip today. Thank you so much for coming along, and thank you for listening.